Camilla Hart and Nathan Cole looked like the perfect couple online. She, a rising OnlyFans star with thousands of fans, and he, the loyal boyfriend, always just out of frame but behind the glamorous posts and glossy smiles. Their love story was unraveling in a storm of jealousy, betrayal, and secrets that would end in a brutal stabbing no one saw coming. Camilla Hart was the kind of woman who made strangers stop scrolling. At just 24, she had built her life around a glowing screen and an audience that worshipped every move she made. Her OnlyFans account was her empire, a digital stage where she curated the fantasy of perfection. There were bikini shoots by crystal blue pools, candid shots in satin sheets, and playful videos where she whispered to the camera like it was her closest friend. Thousands of paying subscribers fed her bank account, and with each month, her lifestyle grew more extravagant. A luxury apartment in the heart of the city, designer handbags casually placed on marble countertops, a sleek sports car parked in the private garage. To her fans, Camilla was the embodiment of success, independence, and beauty. What they didn't see was the man often behind the camera. Nathan Cole wasn't just her boyfriend, he was her business partner in many ways. He helped with lighting, shot some of her content, and even managed a portion of her social media outreach. He was older, steadier, and had a quiet charm that balanced out Camilla's fiery personality. Together, they looked like the ultimate power couple, young, attractive, and unstoppable. Their feeds suggested love, travel, and endless nights of champagne toasts. To the outside world, they were living a dream so glossy it could have been cut straight from a magazine cover. But glossy images are only surface deep. Behind the lens, their relationship was far from effortless. The pressures of constant content creation and the need to maintain a glamorous lifestyle fueled stress in their home. Arguments broke out over money, trust, and the growing distance between them. Nathan began to resent the endless hours Camilla spent online, while Camilla accused him of holding her back. The neighbors in the building noticed the tension. At first, it was subtle, muffled disagreements drifting through thin walls, hurried footsteps up and down the hallways at odd hours. Later, it became louder, angrier, with doors slamming and voices raised so high they cut through the hum of city traffic. Still, they always managed to patch things up in time for the camera. Photos of candlelit dinners appeared the same week they were seen fighting in the parking lot. Smiling selfies hid the exhaustion in their eyes. For Nathan, keeping up appearances felt necessary both to protect their income and to preserve the image they had built together. For Camilla, it was about more than money. She craved adoration, validation, the constant rush of knowing thousands were watching her. The performance was everything. As their fame grew, so did the pressure to keep delivering. Camilla began posting cryptic captions that hinted at betrayal or frustration. Her fans brushed it off as marketing drama, a way to build intrigue. But to those closest to her, the posts felt like a cry from the storm she was living in. Friends whispered about how controlling Nathan had become, while others insisted Camilla was the one spiraling, unpredictable, and quick to anger. Whatever the truth was, one thing was certain: behind the perfect lighting and flawless filters, their world was cracking, the stage was set. What began as a glamorous love story built on fame and fortune was quietly transforming into something darker. Something that no follower, no subscriber, and no carefully crafted post could disguise. The night that changed everything began like so many others, with Camilla preparing content for her followers. The apartment was spotless, candles flickered against glass walls, and music pulsed faintly from hidden speakers. Camilla had been dressed in silk, hair curled into waves, her phone propped carefully on a tripod to catch every angle. Nathan, restless and frustrated, paced in the background, irritated by the hours it took to set up what he saw as another performance. The tension that had been simmering for weeks was close to boiling over. Outside, the city buzzed with Friday night energy. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. Neighbors later said they heard sharp bursts of shouting, followed by long silences, as if the couple's argument had slipped into dangerous territory. Some thought about calling security but brushed it off, assuming it was another domestic spat that would end like all the others with apologies and make-up photos. No one realized they were listening to the prelude of a tragedy. Sometime after 10, a call came into emergency services. The voice on the other end was panicked, screaming, almost incoherent. When police arrived, the building lobby was calm, the concierge puzzled by the sudden commotion. But as the elevator doors opened on Camilla and Nathan's floor, the scene shifted. The hallway smelled faintly metallic, and a neighbor was standing outside her door, trembling, whispering that she had heard something terrible. Officers pushed into the apartment and were hit with the unmistakable scent of blood. In the center of the living room, Nathan lay collapsed on the polished wooden floor. His shirt was soaked through, his chest rising and falling in shallow, desperate gasps. Around him, streaks of red trailed across the furniture and carpet, signs of a frantic struggle. Close by, Camilla stood frozen. Her silk robe was splattered, her hands trembling, her face pale. Cuts marked her arms, thin and sharp, but it was clear most of the blood on her body wasn't her own. On the counter sat a kitchen knife, its blade glistening under the harsh light. A phone rested beside it, screen still glowing, recording as though it had been left running during the chaos. The camera angle was skewed, capturing only fragments of the room, but enough to suggest something violent had unfolded just minutes before the police arrived. Paramedics rushed to Nathan, but the damage was severe. Multiple stab wounds to the chest and abdomen, some so deep they had pierced vital organs. Blood loss was catastrophic, and his breathing was shallow, irregular. As medical teams fought to stabilize him, officers guided Camilla to the side. Her voice cracked as she tried to explain, her words stumbling over one another, claiming she had been attacked and had only acted to protect herself. Her wide eyes shifted constantly between the officers, the knife, and Nathan's body. The apartment, once a backdrop for curated beauty, was now a crime scene. Blood on silk drapes, overturned furniture scattered across the floor. A wine glass shattered near the window. The signs of violence were everywhere, impossible to reconcile with the carefully polished life Camilla had displayed online. To the first responders, it was clear this wasn't just a lover's quarrel. Something brutal had taken place, and the woman standing in front of them barefoot, shaking, and drenched in red was at the center of it all. The investigation into Nathan's stabbing began immediately, with detectives combing through every corner of the luxury apartment for clues. The crime scene was photographed in painstaking detail: the knife, the blood stains, the overturned furniture. Camilla was taken into custody for questioning, her silk robe replaced with a gray blanket draped around her shoulders. To the cameras flashing outside the station, she looked less like a glamorous influencer and more like a frightened, broken figure. Still, the public couldn't look away. From the very start, Camilla insisted she acted in self-defense. She told detectives that Nathan had attacked her during an argument, grabbing her wrists and shouting until she feared for her life. According to her account, she managed to break free and reached for the knife on the counter, striking out blindly to save herself. Her cuts, she claimed, were proof of the assault. But detectives weren't satisfied with her version. There were inconsistencies in her story, and the physical evidence didn't entirely match her account. As forensic teams worked, a clearer picture began to emerge. Blood spatter analysis suggested Nathan had been attacked in more than one spot in the apartment, indicating a prolonged struggle rather than a quick act of defense. The wounds on his body told their own story, some shallow, others deep, several clustered in areas that didn't align with the desperate swings of someone merely fending off an attacker. The sheer number of stab wounds raised serious doubts about Camilla's explanation. Then came the digital trail. Detectives secured both Camilla and Nathan's phones, combing through messages, call logs, and social media activity. In the days leading up to the incident, Camilla's posts had grown increasingly strange. A caption beneath a glamorous mirror selfie read, "Betrayal cuts deeper than any blade. Another showed her holding a glass of wine with the words, "Some people deserve what's coming." To her followers, it was cryptic entertainment. To investigators, it looked like a motive. Private text messages between Camilla and her closest friends painted an even darker picture. She had confided suspicions of Nathan cheating, hinted at hidden money she believed he was keeping from her, and even complained about feeling trapped in the relationship. While none of these were proof of murder, they built a narrative of tension, jealousy, and resentment that prosecutors would later seize on. Even the building's security footage raised red flags. Hours before the stabbing, Camilla was captured leaving the apartment with the very knife later found covered in blood. She reappeared minutes later, clutching the knife by her side as she entered the unit. To detectives, this detail changed everything. It suggested not an impulsive act of defense, but premeditation. Despite the mounting evidence, Camilla held firm. She wept during interviews, described Nathan as controlling, and painted herself as a victim of ongoing abuse. Yet investigators couldn't find medical records, police reports, or prior complaints to back up her claims. It became a battle of narratives, Camilla as a terrified woman forced to fight for her life, or Camilla as a jealous partner who let her emotions spiral into violence. With every new piece of evidence, the case grew more complicated. What had seemed like a straightforward domestic incident was quickly transforming into something far murkier. Detectives weren't just piecing together what happened that night. They were trying to untangle a relationship built on appearances, secrecy, and lies, all leading to the blood-soaked floor of a luxury apartment. As the case against Camilla seemed to be tightening, a discovery shifted the entire investigation in an unexpected direction. Forensic teams, while re-examining the knife that had taken Nathan's life, found traces of DNA that didn't match either him or Camilla. It was faint, almost invisible to the naked eye, but the lab results confirmed it belonged to a third individual. This revelation sent shockwaves through both the police department and the public already glued to the story. Who else had handled the knife, and what did that mean for the case? Speculation exploded overnight. Online communities, already obsessed with Camilla's downfall, spun new theories with each passing hour. Some believed Nathan had been involved in shady dealings, that the foreign DNA proved another person had been in the apartment that night. Others insisted Camilla had help, maybe from a secret lover or an envious fan who had crossed the boundary between follower and intruder. Every theory fed into the growing storm, and the media capitalized on it, labeling the case a mystery with more twists than fiction. Detectives worked through every possible lead. They interviewed friends, neighbors, even distant acquaintances who might have had access to the couple's home, yet no one seemed to fit the profile. The building's entry logs didn't show an uninvited visitor, and security footage revealed no stranger slipping through the halls. Still, the unexplained DNA couldn't be ignored. Defense attorneys immediately seized on the finding, arguing it introduced reasonable doubt. If someone else's biological trace was on the weapon, then how could the state claim beyond certainty that Camilla alone was responsible for Nathan's death? Meanwhile, Camilla's online presence took on a life of its own. Even behind bars, her past content continued to circulate. Clips were analyzed frame by frame for hidden clues, with some users pointing out unfamiliar figures in the background of certain videos. A blurred hand here, a shadow passing there, each tiny detail was blown up as potential evidence of a third player in the drama. Theories of a stalker gained traction, especially after an old fan message surfaced in which a subscriber threatened to come find Camilla if she ignored him. Prosecutors, however, pushed back strongly. They argued the DNA could have come from something as innocent as a store employee who had handled the knife before it was purchased. They reminded the public that no signs of forced entry were found in the apartment and that every piece of evidence still pointed directly to Camilla. The mysterious DNA, they insisted, was nothing more than a distraction, a convenient detail for the defense to exploit. But for the jury pool and the watching public, the discovery was enough to muddy the waters. The case no longer seemed so clear-cut. Was Camilla truly the mastermind behind Nathan's brutal death, or had someone else been involved, lingering in the shadows while she took the fall? As more information leaked, the story transformed from a simple tale of jealousy and rage into a sprawling mystery that left everyone wondering how many secrets were still hidden within the walls of that high-rise apartment. When the trial finally began, the courthouse became a stage as frenzied as any Camilla had ever performed on. Reporters lined the steps with cameras raised high, sketch artists sharpened their pencils, and curious onlookers crowded the sidewalks hoping for a glimpse of the woman the media had branded the bloody OnlyFans model. Inside, every seat was filled, the air heavy with anticipation. It wasn't just another murder trial, it was the event of the year, a collision of celebrity, scandal, and violence that captured global attention. Prosecutors wasted no time framing Camilla as a manipulative influencer who had carefully crafted her life around appearances. They described a woman consumed by jealousy and greed, unwilling to let her boyfriend walk away with secrets she couldn't control. They displayed graphic photographs of the crime scene, pointed to the number and placement of Nathan's wounds, and emphasized the chilling detail that Camilla had been seen on security footage carrying the knife back into the apartment before the fatal attack. To them, it was a story of premeditation disguised as passion, a calculated act of rage hidden beneath a glamorous image. The defense painted an entirely different picture. Their version cast Camilla as a fragile young woman trapped in a cycle of emotional and physical abuse. They introduced journal entries where she described fear and isolation, messages to friends in which she claimed Nathan had grown more controlling, and photographs of her injuries taken after the stabbing. They argued that she had no choice but to fight back during a violent outburst, and they leaned heavily on the mysterious DNA found on the knife, suggesting another presence in the apartment had not been fully investigated. As witnesses took the stand, the trial grew even more complicated. Friends testified about the couple's toxic arguments, some siding with Nathan, others with Camilla. One neighbor recalled seeing Nathan grab Camilla by the arm in the hallway weeks before the stabbing, while another described hearing her scream insults late into the night. Forensic experts dissected blood patterns, digital analysts read out old text messages, and financial records revealed debts and secret withdrawals that neither Camilla or Nathan had shared with the public. The jury sat in silence, scribbling notes, their faces unreadable. What made the trial even more gripping was the constant coverage outside the courtroom. Every revelation was dissected in real time by podcasts, YouTubers, and online sleuths. Hashtags trended worldwide, with some declaring Camilla a cold-blooded killer and others calling her a victim of both violence and fame. Opinion polls showed the public was nearly split down the middle, each side convinced of its version of the truth. Through it all, Camilla sat at the defense table, dressed modestly, her hair pulled back, her face pale and solemn. To some, she appeared broken and remorseful. To others, it was just another performance for the cameras. Each time evidence was read aloud, her eyes flickered toward the jury, as if silently pleading with them to see her as more than the headlines had painted. The closing arguments left the courtroom hanging on every word. The prosecution urged the jury to remember the brutality of the crime, to see through the smoke of distraction and focus on the undeniable evidence of intent. The defense asked them to consider the doubt, the unexplained DNA, the possibility that Camilla's story of fear had at least some truth. 12 strangers now carried the weight of a decision that would define her life. Outside, millions waited, breathless, for a verdict that would decide whether Camilla Hart would walk free or spend decades behind bars.